Imagine you're wading in crystal clear water. The surf whispers, "Come on in," and then, whoosh, a translucent pink-tinged balloon bobs past. You think it's a stray plastic bag, maybe a party decoration some kid ditched. But if you reach out to touch it, well, let's just say the ocean has a way of reminding you that curiosity can be a stinging quality. That, my friends, is the Portuguese man-o'-war, a creature that looks like a floating balloon, behaves like a sail-powered ship, and packs a venomous punch that could make a jellyfish say, "ouch," in unison. So what exactly is a Portuguese man-o'-war? And what on earth do we mean when we ask, what is a shoal of Portuguese man-o'-war? Stay with me, because we're about to turn that mystery inside out, sprinkle in some science, a dash of humor, and maybe a beach ball joke or two. Meet the Portuguese man-o'-war. First things first, the Portuguese man-o'-war. Physalia physalis for the Latin lovers among us isn't a single animal. It's a colonial organism, a tiny metropolis of specialized cells called zooids. Think of it as a condo complex where every unit has a job. Some swell up with gas to keep the whole thing afloat. Others dangle long, venom-laden tentacles to snag dinner, and a few even handle reproduction. If you've ever seen a jellyfish and thought, that's a floating sea ghost, the man-o'-war is the fancier cousin who decided to bring its own sail to the party. The sail is actually a gas-filled float, a translucent balloon-like dome perched on top of a cluster of tentacles. That float can be anywhere from a few centimeters up to about 30 centimeters tall, depending on how much gas that tiny invisible crew decides to pump in. And talk about a big family. Those tentacles can stretch more than 10 meters, that's over 30 feet. They're lined with nematocysts, tiny microscopic harpoons that fire a cocktail of neurotoxins the moment something brushes against them. In other words, if you're a tasty copepod or an unsuspecting swimmer, you're about to receive a painful invitation to the ocean's most exclusive club. Now, why the flamboyant name? The Portuguese part comes from the 16th century warships called men-o'-war, because the creature's sail resembled the outline of those imposing vessels. Add Portuguese because of its occasional presence in waters near Portugal, though nowadays they're found in warm seas worldwide. And war? Maybe because, as you'll soon learn, getting tangled in their tentacles feels like a battle you didn't sign up for. It's basically a tiny floating navy that never asks for a surrender. It just shoots first and asks questions later. Anatomy, habitat, and lifestyle. Let's break down the anatomy of this underwater marvel, and I promise we'll keep it as painless as the sting itself. Well, almost. 1. The float. A gas-filled bladder made mostly of carbon monoxide. Yes, the same stuff that makes a car exhaust feel not great. The float is topped with a small sail that catches the wind, propelling the colony across the ocean surface like a sailboat without a crew. 2. The tentacles. The real action happens below. Each colony has a network of tentacles that can extend horizontally for meters, each equipped with thousands of nematocysts. When a prey, say a small fish or a tasty shrimp, brushes by, those nematocysts explode, injecting a toxin that paralyzes the victim. The tentacle then reels it in, and the gastrozoids, the eating zoids, digest the catch. 3. Breathing? Not really. The man-o'-war doesn't have gills. Instead, its soft tissues exchange gases directly with the surrounding water, so it basically breathes through its skin. Where do they hang out? You'll find these floating colonies in tropical and subtropical seas. The Atlantic, especially the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and the waters off the Azores, the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific. They love warm surface waters, typically between 20 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius. They're often blown shoreward by wind and currents, which is why they show up on beaches after a breezy weekend. A surprise you don't want to discover with a bare foot. Lifestyle highlights. They're drifters, not swimmers. Their float lets them ride the wind, sometimes forming massive slicks on the water's surface. They reproduce both sexually, releasing eggs and sperm into the water, and asexually, budding new zooids that stay attached. In a sense, a single colony can spawn thousands of new colonies over its lifetime, a population explosion that can turn a calm sea into a battlefield of floating stingers. Fun fact, the Portuguese man-o'-war is not a true jellyfish. It's more like a hydrozoan, a closer relative of corals and sea anemones. So if you ever hear someone say jellyfish, you can correct them with a smug smile. Actually, it's a hydrozoan. Think of it as the jellyfish's more ambitious cousin who decided to build its own sail. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of marine critters and want more What Is stories, then hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. I'll see you on the next adventure. Next, let's look at the shoal concept. Now, what in the ocean lexicon do we mean by shoal? A shoal traditionally refers to a group of fish or marine mammals moving together, like a school of tuna, a pod of dolphins, or a pod of whales. It's a social term, implying some level of coordination, or at least a shared zip code. But here's where things get a little fuzzy for the Portuguese man-o'-war. The word shoal is sometimes used colloquially to describe any aggregation or bloom of these critters. When the wind picks up, dozens or even hundreds of colonies can cluster together, creating a shimmering carpet of floating bubbles that stretches for miles. Fishermen have long referred to these gatherings as shoals of Portuguese man-o'-war, even though scientifically we'd call them an aggregation, bloom, or simply a group. Why do they bunch up? Several reasons. Wind and currents. Their sail-like floats catch the breeze, so when the wind blows in a consistent direction, colonies end up drifting together, like leaves gathering in a corner of a pond. Feasting. A dense cluster can increase the chances of catching prey. Think of it as a buffet line, where each table, the tentacles, is ready to snag whatever floats by. Reproduction. When multiple colonies are in close quarters, sexual reproduction becomes easier. They can release eggs and sperm into the water simultaneously, boosting fertilization odds. So, a shoal of Portuguese man-o'-war is essentially a wind-driven aggregation of dozens to thousands of colonies, forming a visual spectacle that can be beautiful and dangerous at the same time. It's like a beach party, where the guests are all equipped with tiny invisible harpoons, and the only thing more contagious than the vibe is the sting. Human encounters, fear, facts, and first aid. Let's be honest, the Portuguese man-o'-war is best admired from a distance, maybe from the safety of a YouTube screen. But if you ever find yourself in the water and ouch, you've been stung, here's what you need to know. The sting. The nematocysts deliver a potent mix of neurotoxins that cause intense pain, redness, and swelling. Most people describe it like 100 tiny fire ants all biting at once. In rare cases, particularly for people with allergies or who receive a massive number of stings, the reaction can be more severe, leading to anaphylaxis or even death. But let's keep perspective. The odds of a fatal encounter are low compared to the number of beachgoers who get a minor sting each year. First Aid 101. 1. Rinse the area with vinegar. Yes, the kitchen staple. Vinegar helps neutralize the nematocysts that haven't fired yet, preventing further toxin release. 2. Remove tentacles carefully. Use a gloved hand or a pair of tweezers. Don't rub the area, or you'll just spread the venom. 3. Soak the sting in hot seawater, around 45 degrees Celsius, that's 113 degrees Fahrenheit, for 20 to 30 minutes. The heat denatures the proteins in the venom, dulling the pain. Tip: if you're on a beach and don't have a thermometer, just grab a bucket of seawater, heat it up on a stove if you can, or use a heat pack if you're lucky. Ice or fresh water can actually make things worse. They can cause the nematocysts to spontaneously fire. Myth busting. They'll kill you instantly. Not true. While a sting is painful, fatalities are extremely rare. They're just big jellyfish. Wrong. As we said, they're colonial hydrozoans, not true jellyfish. Safety tip: if you see a blue-purple, balloon-like float near the shore, stay out of the water. Many beaches post warning flags when a Portuguese man-o-war bloom is reported. Respect the warning. It's not a suggestion, it's a sting on the radar. In short, if you're on a beach and you see what looks like a floating party balloon, don't bring a party. Bring a pair of long pants and a vinegar-soaked towel. Ecological role and cultural tidbits. Believe it or not, the Portuguese man-o-war isn't just a pain in the ocean. It plays a key role in marine ecosystems. Prey. They're a tasty snack for sea turtles, especially the loggerhead and hawksbill, some species of fish, like the ocean sunfish, and even certain nudibranchs that have evolved a resistance to their venom. Habitat. The colonies often host commensal organisms, tiny crabs, shrimp, and even some fish that live among the tentacles, grabbing leftovers without getting stung. It's like a tiny floating apartment complex with a built-in security system that only lets the right tenants in. Nutrient cycling. When they die and break down, they release nutrients back into the water, fueling phytoplankton growth, a crucial piece of the ocean's nutrient recycling plant. Cultural references. The name Portuguese man-o-war has shown up in literature, from Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to modern movies. It's often used as a symbol of danger lurking beneath beauty. In Hawaiian folklore, they're known as kaka, and sometimes considered omens of change in the sea. If you ever write a sea monster novel, you could do worse than having a Portuguese man-o-war as the villain. It's basically a floating antagonist with a built-in sting scene. Summing it all up. Let's bring it all together, shall we? A Portuguese man-o-war is a colonial hydrozoan, a cluster of specialized zooids that floats on a gas-filled sail, trails lethal tentacles, and drifts with the wind across warm seas worldwide. Its venom can deliver a painful sting, but fatal encounters are rare. A shoal of Portuguese man-o-war is simply a large aggregation of these colonies, often blown together by winds and currents. While the term shoal is technically reserved for fish, the ocean storytellers, including fishermen and beachgoers, have adopted it to describe these spectacular shimmering clusters that can stretch for miles. In short, when you hear Shoal of Portuguese man-o-war, picture a wind-driven fleet of balloon-like invaders, each equipped with a tiny invisible army of stinging darts. They're beautiful from afar, deadly up close, and a perfect reminder that the ocean's wonders are often a mix of awe and ouch. Thanks for joining me on this sting-filled expedition. If you enjoyed the ride, maybe you learned something, maybe you laughed at a jellyfish joke, let me know in the comments below. What other marine mysteries should we tackle next? And if you're feeling generous, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends who think a Portuguese man-o-war is a type of warship, and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember, the ocean is full of surprises. Sometimes they look like a balloon, sometimes they look like a myth, and sometimes they're just a shoal of floating painmakers. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep asking, what is?